Hey everybody, welcome back to day 3 of Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Clash Endurance, Miami. My name is Bob Babbitt. My next guest, 2-time Olympian from Bermuda, Mr. Tyler Butterfield. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Always a pleasure. So is Bermuda a little Flora Duffy crazy right now with the first ever Olympic gold medal?
I wouldn't say a little. I'd say a lot Flora Duffy crazy. But it is awesome. They got a street named after her. It was named Corkscrew Hill. It's now Flora Duffy Hill. We had the holiday. The ITU race was supposed to be on there, I want to say October. It was a week after Kona.
Yes, I remember that.
When Kona was canceled.
And you guys were all there.
We were all there.
And they had to cancel because of COVID. Yeah.
They canceled the individual, and then I was there for the team relay, which was going to, I think, be the Sunday, and then the holiday was then the Monday. But yeah, it was amazing to see. We actually got to enjoy it more, I think. It would have been crazy to have the race and all the
all the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Flora did an amazing job. Flora and her husband Dan were just going from one place to another. Like, pool was named after her, street was named after her, parade. There was a concert.
U.S. Open. She's in the
exactly. That was a week or two before.
Isn't Bermuda a sponsor of that?
They are, yeah, because we get a lot of tourists from the East Coast.
Yes.
So yeah, they sponsor that, and tennis and golf is big in Bermuda.
Right.
But Flora's shown like an individual sport is where Bermuda can really thrive. I mean, 65,000 people, and she beat everyone in the world. It's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And when did you first see her? In terms of, you probably saw her when she was.
I mean, I don't know when I first saw her, but we had the same run coach when she was probably like 8, and I guess I'm 5 or 6 years older. I think 5. I think I'm half a decade older than her. I have a funny story that I told that we did a triathlon camp, and I was maybe 13, and so someone from away came in. I want to say Steve True, a British coach, but as a 13-year-old, I was helping run it, and Flora would have been, I guess, 8 or 7. And that's normally, we have an Iron Kids, when you normally start racing at 7. We got a really good junior program. But so she was at this camp. There was a bunch of other girls that she was always the youngest, but she hung out with girls about 2 years older because she could keep up, or even beat them half the time. Anyway, we had this tight course with lots of cones. And so I did an example to show everyone, the younger kids, what they had to do.
Sure.
And they timed me, and they got my time, and sure enough, everyone went, and I had the fastest time still. They were trying to beat my time, and then Flora went like 3rd last, and someone goes, Flora just beat your time. And I was like, no, she must have cut the course, or like, and then she did it again, and she had a faster time than I did. She was 8, and she could ride a bike faster than I could have. I mean, she had a short bike. Like, I'm going to make excuses for myself. She had a short bike, smaller wheels, so around these like tight cones, it was only in like what you would park 3 cars in. It was tiny. But she from the beginning showed, I mean, Com Games, I did 2006 for cycling, and that was her first. She was 16, I think, and she got 8th.
In the triathlon.
Like, beat some big names, and suddenly people were like, who's this little girl from Bermuda? And then, I mean, the road's not easy to the top. She had ups and downs, but she showed.
In the Xterra, moving to the Xterra.
Xterra.
Did you do much of that?
I did 1 or 2 with her husband. I did 1 year that her husband. I remember her husband flatted that year, but and then the next year I think her husband got 2nd. Dan Hugo, you would have been.
Oh yeah, he was a pro.
And so, I mean, I did a bit, but I mean, you'd have to ask her, but it seems like she really found her feet and her confidence there.
Absolutely.
And then just took it and just kept winning. And I mean, Bermuda's, it's amazing to see. I mean, and it's, I think it was the most Googled country the day that she won the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it hit some charts numbers that it's like, we're never probably going to hit again. So it's pretty cool.
That is so cool.
I mean, I got goosebumps, and I had like chills for days after.
When you were watching it.
Yeah, I went to the gym because I knew my kids wouldn't really let me watch properly. But they saw the replay, and they didn't really realize it wasn't live. Because I wanted my kids to get excited.
4 kids?
4 kids now, but my oldest daughter's 11. She doesn't really like sport because she's like, well, that's why Daddy's away this weekend. She doesn't look at it as. My son is 8. He thinks it's cool. My daughter, who's 5, we call the hitter. She's a little redhead like my wife, and she just wants to do everything. And then my son's 2, and he's like, Daddy, go running, because he wants to be pushing the stroller. I want a bike too. So half the time I'm pushing him with a tricycle with a handle. But I don't know what he'll eventually be like. But I wanted my son. and my daughter, my older two, to see, one, how much it meant for a country.
Right.
Because they have Bermuda status.
Sure.
They're Bermuda, American, and Australian.
Oh, my God.
And British. We're a British colony.
That's right,
So
yeah.
I have 3, and because of my wife, they get 4.
So you're like Jason Bourne
Yeah,
going
yeah,
through all the different passports,
yeah.
right?
I'm like, if they see me with all these, am I going to get in trouble? But no, I want them to understand sort of what country pride is about.
Right.
My son loves USA because he was born and raised here.
Right.
He's like, wow, so they're for USA? And I'm like, no, that's for Bermuda. And at first he was like, what? And I was like, well, that's where I'm from. That's where I was born. But yeah, I wanted them to see it. Like, they get the Olympics and stuff.
Sure, it's big, man.
Yeah, but for them to understand, so they appreciate it as well. Like when we went down, we took the whole family for that week in Bermuda to see the Flora Duffy holiday.
So you guys live in Boulder most of the time?
We're Boulder almost
Okay.
all the time now.
Okay.
Nikki hasn't been with COVID back to see her family. We're going to try and get back to Australia at some point.
Yeah.
We just got a lot of cousins for my kids and,
Right.
and stuff there. I want them to see Australia. That's where their mom's from.
Right.
And I want them to see Bermuda, and then obviously they know
They
the
know
U.S.
Boulder.
Yeah,
they
and
know that stuff. So you did this race last year.
I did. I loved it. It was awesome.
It is probably such a great mix of the speedway, but you got to be able to handle a bike.
Yeah, the speedway, I love how they've added the corners in. The 20-meter rule is really cool.
Yeah.
There's still like pacing, but there's not really any drafting effect.
Right.
It's probably the hardest I had to ride all year, just because you knew it was honest.
Right.
And at one point I was like, am I pushing too hard? And is there a bunch of riders behind me? Because I wasn't in the front group, and
Right.
I wasn't really in the back group. Like Lionel, Chris Leiferman,
Yeah.
and Drates
Oh,
came by me.
Right.
And so I could pace with them for a couple laps. But I knew that was a little above my punching power. And so after 5 or 6 laps, I had to let them go. But I just used them as a carrot. And then I was alone most of the day. But like, you'd pass people who you knew in the 12-meter draft rule could jump on you and stick. But you just went right by. It was a real individual race. It was sort of like the old school individual triathlon.
That's what I like about this. And it's funny because you think they're all speedway races, but every one of them is different. 'Cause
Yes.
the one up in Watkins Glen is going to have some major climbing, as
Yeah.
well as the road course has hills in it.
Yeah.
So all these are pretty fun.
And it's so professional what's happening
Oh my
because you
God.
can control it a little more. The media
Right.
is easier. You can video a bit better. So it's exciting to see what's happening.
Well, and you've been there. You've seen all the different everything that's happened in the sport, and now we've got Super League, and you've got the couples race, and you've got Challenge, and you've got Clash, and WTS, and Ironman. And so it's a good time to be a pro.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I would say especially with the PTO.
Yes.
And like Clash and Challenge, there's still the points go together for that system.
Right.
Then PTO takes all the points other than ITU, and ITU's came since Les McDonald started it. Like, it's basically the most professional, but it's not long course. It's not non-drafting.
Yeah.
And now PTO is saying, no, we want to be uber professional. Ironman is obviously the pinnacle.
Right.
And they have the world champs are always super professional, and a few other races. But some just will have no media coverage.
Right.
And so it's like, it's sort of hit and miss if it's not a world champs. And I'm from a small country. I won races when I was super young. I always wanted to chase the best. I said to someone earlier, they said, oh, well, what motivates you? I was like, I'd rather get 10th in a race that I know I had to dig my hardest than to win a small race.
Right.
Which is why I keep going to these big races and just sort of, I'm a bit pack-filled. But for me, it's a personal, am I still good enough? Where am I in the world?
Right.
It's a ranking. There was a point where it was the main source of income. It was a job. I'm tailing off. It's the end. I'm still going.
How old are you now?
39. Just turned 39.
Oh, you're still
February.
young guy. Come on, Fernando's 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
And then I was just saying, we were saying that it's not the age that I think
No.
it's the other commitments I have in my life, and I'm ready to move on.
You have a farm?
Had a little farm that does horse boarding. We board other people's horses, and we got a great group of people.
Yeah.
They understand that it's not, it's a passion for us, the horses, just like racing, and we do our best. But they're not high maintenance boarders.
Right.
Some of them have some great horses that are high class, but they're not They're pretty easygoing, which makes I have to just manage it mainly. I don't have to work it. I had to work it when all the employees earlier in January, everyone got COVID after me. So this year I'm a couple weeks behind last year on fitness.
Right.
I'd love to say I could put the exact same performance in.
What'd you place
but I
last
don't.
year?
Last year I was 7th. I was probably like, I know they took the top 5 to the podium. I want to say it was like 30 seconds off Rudy.
Ooh,
I couldn't catch Rudy. He was the one. And then Magnus.
He was dropping back.
He was, and I couldn't catch either of them on the run. I was chasing, but not that hard. But I mean, it's a great race. It's a great system. They had great coverage last year. I know this year is going to be the same.
Absolutely.
Bill does an amazing job to jump behind. I know Clash is sort of went out on their own, but I think they wanted to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Because then nothing's holding them back.
Control their own destiny.
I don't think it was infighting or anything. It was just basically we want to grow at a faster rate and we want to do it our way.
Right.
And so
their courses are going to might be some with no swim.
Yeah.
There might be some just mountain bikers. So
but it's cool that the points still go to the
PTO.
The PTO does all of
their
them.
own points.
The challenge points still count together with the Clash, so that's pretty neat that they still included them in. It just helps the pros, and it's helping if the pros get to grow, and it helps us. Then it's helping the whole sport.
So one of the pros who was in here a little earlier, and I know you like him a lot, Sam Long.
Sam? No.
You don't like
he's
him.
my rival.
You
I'm just kidding.
take him
No.
down. But he was,
I don't think anyone. Well, I mean, a few people can take him down, but not me.
He's. I just love that young man. I think he's so special, so great for the sport. When we were at Daytona 2 years ago, there were guys from Europe like, we're going to shut that kid up. We're going to lap him because he was doing a lot of social media and there'd been no racing. So people were like, they didn't realize how good the kid was.
He's genuine is what I love about him.
Totally.
So on social media, you can be taken the wrong way as like
always
arrogant or cocky, but once you meet him, he's just genuine and he's just like, I just want to have fun and why hold it in? Like
tell people like that.
Exactly.
He actually probably cost himself at that challenge championship in PTO because he's high-fiving and screaming and doing this while he's in third place, and he ended up dropping to 9th because I think while he was doing that, he forgot to take a gel.
Yeah, exactly.
He put himself on the map. That sort of led to everything. What he was telling me is this summer he went to the Collins Cup and got schooled, right? Sam Appleton, Fernando, they worked together in the swim, put 4.5 minutes on him, and he realized, I need to learn how to swim open water. And you found him like a lake from some from a barista, a friend of yours who's a barista, had access to a lake to work on going hard from the beginning. Yeah,
a friend found him a lake. That I can't take claim to that. But I gave him a couple tips. We did swim at the lake. I don't do a lot of open water swimming, but it was good for him I made him start on my hip, and he would pull ahead of me the first 100, and he said he was drafting my hip, and he was like literally like
that
this
far
far, and I'm like, no, this is drafting. Like when you're on the hip, you're under their armpit.
You're that close.
Yeah, exactly. And then I made him do it, and I was like, no. And then eventually, instead of getting him swimming on my hip, I kept swimming him into him to show him, and he felt that wave. Because that helps in a wetsuit or a non-Swift. When you can get that wave from the draft from their head and the wave from their feet to surf it almost, you can, and that just helps you start. Like you'll be with a better swimmer, and you'll just get the first couple 100 without going lactate, and you're going just as fast as them, and then you have to drop behind to their feet. But the big thing we did in the pool as well is he always threw his paddles on.
Always, because he thought it gives me more power.
Yeah, and to make this time splits. And I'm like, even if you have to take a couple seconds extra, like learn to swim without paddles.
Right.
You're a strong guy. I know he does weights. He
does everything.
His engine's huge. There were just little tweaks. I mean, him and his Ryan Bolton is his coach. Ryan makes huge engines. Yes. I mean, Sam, Ben Hoffman, like they're just like V8s or V12s. They're big
he knows
engines.
How to build them. No question.
But it was just little tweaks that I could see him doing because we get on. We're not too stressed about training, so he lets me train with him a lot.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, it's not my place to say something. And sometimes I'd say a little. I'd be like, oh, why are you putting the paddles on? And he kept doing it. And after a while, I was like, he had a couple bad swims, and I'm like, just try it. Just don't swim for a couple weeks without the paddles and see if your swimming improves. If it doesn't, you put them back on and away you go.
Yeah.
And he started to notice that like, there's that switch where you're tired and you're not making it, and you suddenly have to concentrate on your body position and your stroke rate, and you can't just get as we were talking about other stuff, a crutch. You can't just get something in training to make you keep up.
Right.
It doesn't
'cause
help.
you don't have the paddles on.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
not. Yeah, so you have to do it without the paddles.
Yeah, and he learned that, and in St. George, I only did St. George because they canceled Kona, and I was supposed to be in Kona training, and I was like, all right, I'll drive up to St. George, and I'm running out of transition, and I hear his name, and I'm like, he is right on the back of this pack, and I guess there's a small gap.
It was 2 minutes. It
yeah.
wasn't bad. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when Ben was
2 minutes
setting-
to the leader is 30 seconds to our group, and
Right.
and that had the eventual winner, which
Yes.
was.
Yeah, Gustav was in there.
Yeah, and I thought Gustav for sure would have been up with the front one. I didn't really know why he was, but it didn't stop him. He
No.
still
Well, it's
won.
funny because I said to Sam, so look at your splits. You did like a 2-hour bike ride, and it's not. I mean, that's a tough course,
Yeah.
and you were only 2 minutes behind out of the water, and you had a great run.
Yeah.
I mean, all you do is tip your cap to
Yeah.
Gustav. Just had an epic day. What can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what best race you've ever had?
The next one. No. I don't really know. I mean,
Yeah.
the Olympics was pretty special, 2012.
London. London was
yeah.
amazing.
Mainly, I had a bad swim. I knew I was going to have a bad swim. If it's a wetsuit swim, I'm behind.
Really?
I cannot swim in a wetsuit. I'm actually not strong enough. I look strong. I probably should do more paddles because I don't have the wetsuit swim. So I try and pick ones. Like, thankfully, Kona is not a wetsuit swim. But all my good results, Kona, Cozumel,
interesting.
are not hot human.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up
Yeah.
in Bermuda.
Right, so,
There's a trend. And I've tried to fix it a fair bit, but at a certain point, thankfully, I didn't have to really fix it because the world champs was always in Kona.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've had some good Konas. I've had
Yeah. What were you 7th first time out there? Was that something like that?
7th was actually my second. I did it
time,
once
okay.
before London Olympics. So I went to Athens, but I got a wild card.
Yeah.
And I was pretty nervous. I was 21. And it was a great experience, an eye opener. But I'd call my first professional. I guess that was after. I didn't really call myself professional till I switched to long course and was actually racing at the front. In ITU, I was racing professional, but I was just racing under the country flag, doing my best. Junior Worlds, I went all right. I got a 3rd, but never in the ITU. Once I won Pan American. It was like a Conti Cup, though, Pan American champs.
Yeah.
But I was never in the level to make a living at ITU.
But the longer distance really suited you.
It somehow almost felt easier.
Right. You don't have to get the lactate. Yeah.
I like eating, so I get to eat in the race. Maybe that's it.
Funny. I love the fact that your dad was 7th in Kona too.
Yeah, he was 7th. I mean,
1981.
he only did one Ironman.
That was it, right? Because
That
I
was
kept
it.
looking.
Yeah.
Going, he had to do another one.
Nope.
But
No.
one and done.
One and done.
But you know what's so funny about that? In 1981, a woman named Linda Sweeney won and never did another triathlon.
Really? Why?
Totally
Once you win it,
Drop the mic,
Yeah.
right? And she had a basket on the front of the bike, came out of the water, put her towel in, and had listening to White Punks on dope throughout the bike ride. So yeah, it's a little
Now, did you
different
do it that year or no?
I did.
You
I
did?
did
Nice.
80 and 81.
80
yeah.
and 81.
80 was the last year on Oahu, and then we came over to Kona in 1981.
I better check that. I have that right. Which year did they do 2?
82. 82 was Julie and Kathleen in February, and then
So-
they added one in October that year.
My dad must have done 82 because he did the February one.
But that was in February in 81 as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
when they canceled it and pushed it to February, I was like, I don't know if I want to train through the winter.
And then you thought,
and my dad goes, yeah, only the hard people do Kona in
winter.
February.
Like your dad and I.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he was saying. He was
you.
saying, you're a
You
wuss.
wussy, you're a
And then I was
wussy.
like, oh, I guess that'll be cool to do it. I mean, training through the winter in Colorado, I don't go on training camps just because of the kids.
Yeah.
I don't want to be away. It's more stress on the wife, Nikki, and then I feel like you get great training, and then you come home, and I spend extra time with him to make up for being away.
Right.
And the training's then lost because I've taken a week super easy and
Exactly.
done stuff that just is the total opposite of what I should be doing.
So I love the fact that Dad does Ironman. Mom finishes 4th at Boston. Ran 2:38. 2:38 back then is pretty freaking impressive.
But the 238 wasn't Boston.
No, it wasn't Boston.
That
Yeah.
was Olympic trials.
Yeah,
The
2:38.
First ever women's Olympic trials.
Wow, was that so 84? Yeah,
Must have
that's
been,
when the
yeah.
first ever
She-
Olympic
she-
marathon
she
was
ran,
84.
Yeah,
So
she did. I think she did Boston like 7 times. She's got all the T-shirts, but it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then she started a running shoe company because of it. Because she kept going to the expos, and
Yeah.
people would give her a list like Bob, size 11. Nike 2 shoes, Tyler, like, and they go to the expos, buy these, go back to Bermuda because there was no running to do.
Right.
And
yeah. So she became sort of
she became the go-to to get shoes at these races, and she's like, I'm gonna start a running shoe company.
So did she have a store?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, that is so fun.
She got a store, and eventually her accountant bought it off her because the accountant said, "You're making more money than me." It went from literally in a closet to a slightly bigger place, and then they rented a proper space.
And did Dad work there as well?
No, he's always been in the food industry.
Okay.
So that's what pays the bigger bills. But
so your kids have mom who was a professional triathlete, won Syracuse in 2011 when she was 5 months after having a kid, and won 2012 Abu Dhabi, and then grandpa is an Ironman guy, grandma 238 marathoner. They got to get into this stuff, right?
We'll see. The 5-year-old seems a little interested.
Okay.
But we don't push them.
Good.
I mean, my 11-year-old, I don't think so unless she picks it up later.
Right.
Like, Nikki didn't pick up sport till I want to say she was 13. She snapped her Achilles as a kid somehow. But she was always mountain biking with her dad, camping. And then she picked it up. But, I mean, her brother, in Australia, they got this thing called Australian Institute of Sport and Queensland Institute of Sport, and they tested her and her brother, and they were both pretty high up off the charts. But her brother was actually supposedly the highest. But he's like, I don't like waking up early. So he didn't do it. Whereas Nikki was like, you're telling me you're going to give me a free bike and pay for my entries and see if I can.
I'm in.
Yeah, and she kept. But, I mean, you had Marinda Cartwright came through the same system.
Yep.
Fliss Abram, who won, I think, third in an open world title. Like, there's Annabelle Luxford. They all came through this AIS and Queensland Institute of Sport. So it was a pretty cool era. Like, I then moved to Australia in the 2002.
Yeah.
And met Nikki.
Oh, that's where you guys met.
Yeah. But so I've known. I mean, Nikki and Marinda have known each other forever, but it's sort of from the early 2000s, that generation. I mean, I remember me and Andy Potts I did one of his first ITU races.
Oh, is that right?
Tokyo, yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. So 2019, 744 at Cozumel?
Yeah, but I mean, 744 now is slow. They had like 6 guys go faster than that. Someone was like, "Oh, are you nervous that Blumenfeld's gonna beat your record?" And I was a bit like, I had a pretty good day, conditions-wise.
238 marathon.
Yeah, but
look at you and Mom.
Yeah, I beat her by a couple seconds. We found her seconds to see.
That's funny.
I think Blumenfeld did like 236 or 5,
did,
and he went to the bathroom. But I think me and him are the only two to go under 240 on that course. The nice thing is I was the only one to break. Keenly had the record before at 248, and it's sort of, I know Blumenfeld took like 24 minutes off, but the fact that like 5 or 6 other people all went under was a bit like, okay, the conditions were literally
they said
perfect.
there was no wind whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, normally it gets windy.
It's a loop. I had no wind, pretty much, but they actually had like a tailwind, and you actually cut the island in half.
Yeah.
So they had, I guess, a tailwind is what someone told me when they were on the outer side, and then when they cut in for
it was probably
it was like none.
Wind.
So it was like, and normally we have a current on the swim, but the wind is against the current.
Yeah.
They had the current and the wind. What little wind, like 1 or 2, was going the same way. But I mean, it's amazing. Like, to think someone, what did you 721 or something?
720.
Yeah. And you know what's great about it though? Is it probably put a fire under Jens.
Oh, totally.
And he doesn't really need a fire up there, but at the same time, it's nice that it's like, someone's actually maybe on his level, but we'll see. It'll be fun to watch.
It'll be interesting because I look at the guys coming from the ITU and immediately going, well, I'm going to do 4 Ironman this year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the old Alberto Salazar line is like, when I was American record holder 5,000 and 10,000, I was the best marathoner in the world. When I started replacing quality with quantity, I went backwards.
Yeah.
Because I started thinking of myself as a marathoner.
Yeah.
You gotta.
I mean,
you gotta keep the speed. But Jan's smart enough to keep
He's
the speed.
incredible how he's done the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Norwegians, I think, are pretty scientific.
Totally scientific.
The fact they can both, and it's not just like one came over, 2 have came over and done well.
They started in 2009, 2010 and said, we're going to go win a gold medal in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I mean, and 3 of them they were first, 8th, and 11th in the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
I mean, it was Gustav who was 11th, right?
or
think.
Casper.
Okay.
It might have been
But
Gustav
then
and Casper.
they
yeah.
both went on and won 70.3s later that
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And
Then
Blumenfeld
goes
won an
into-
Ironman and set a course record. It's like they have the speed and the endurance. They have it.
They've got it all.
Yeah, which means they understand it. So many of us just, it's like we're
Well,
throwing
then Gustav won an
darts.
Ironman too, didn't he? Go to
Yeah,
Florida?
exactly. Yeah.
So, and 2021 was a good year, right? 15th at the Worlds and 10th at
Yeah, I mean,
Boulder and
I got-
25th at Cancun
Yeah, 5th at Cancun.
and 7th in Challenge here.
So the best race would have been 7th here.
Okay.
That was
because that was such a good field.
That was a good field, same as Worlds, but I had 9 weeks off running in the middle. I went to Tulsa, and I got 3 flats. So I had I think the 4th fastest run, but I was out. Like once
Right.
you have 3 flats, you're out of the
Right, yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah.
And I swam better. I can't say since 2019, COVID hit. I did one race, Cancun, Cozumel 70.3. Sam won. I got second. So that was sort of a fun race.
Yeah.
That was in 2020. Then 2021 was more like COVID was not over, but
Yeah.
and it's still here. But what I mean is it was more back to normal in 2021.
Exactly.
We had a world champ 70.3. But after Tulsa, I came, because I flatted, I didn't feel that sore with the new running shoes.
Yeah.
And so I started training too fast.
What do you think? The plate, is it?
It's not the plate, it's the foam. The plate balances you more.
Oh, you think?
But I mean, there's no way. I did the week after Tulsa. I mean, that's what got me injured. I did 3 speed sessions, just pickups on the treadmill.
Right.
And then a long run. And then the next week, so I took a week rest. And then the following week, 3 speed sessions, a long run. And then the following, it was just an easy long run. But the speed sessions had tightened something, and I pulled my calf. And then I was out for, I think almost 9 weeks. Definitely 7. I think I tried to run somewhere and had to take another 2 off. So I knew, like Boulder, I came off the bike and I ran the first mile and then had to jog. But I'm glad I finished because that's what got me the spot into 70.3 Worlds.
There you go.
And I didn't really care because I was going to Kona and I was just trying to do volume to get back some of the running I lost. But yeah, so I was actually proud of the 7th here in Challenge, Miami, because I'm in 30 seconds off 5th. And I mean, everyone was a little off Yan, but it was a good race. And then the 15th, knowing what
you were dealing with leading in.
Yeah. I mean, I still had an okay run. And I mean, I swam with Gustav was on my hit. Actually, I kept hitting someone, and I was like, who am I hitting? Because I just wanted space.
It's
and
Gustav.
I look over, like I breathe to the right, and eventually I look over to the left, and I saw your red cap, and I'm like, red, different color cap to us. It must be one of the top guys. And I'm like, red cap? I'm like, I think that's Gustav Eden. I was like, oh boy, I better stop hitting him, telling him. I don't know why he was swimming with me. He's an ITU guy.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've had a great year for a while, but I've enjoyed it.
That's the thing. Is like there's it's like it's not like you're racing for sponsors.
No.
You're doing this because
For
you
me,
love it.
yeah.
Right, and like end of July or August, mixed relay.
Mixed relay comm games. That's sort of the goal. That's why I've continued this long.
Yeah.
I mean, I still get really nervous before races because I'm older and I still want to be
You wanna-
respectable.
right.
But I am doing it for myself. And most of the time, if I know what I've put in leading in and have a good performance,
Yeah.
I'm happy. But comm games is a big one. The same team that did 2008 in Australia on the Gold Coast, will try again. And yeah, I mean, the 2 young juniors now. Tyler Smith is the other Bermuda one, and he's stepped it up, and I mean, he's better than me now for sure. And Erica just did two races and got 5th in both of them down in South America. So we got a strong last year, or in 2018 we got 5th. But it's that bronze medal is sort of, it was between New Zealand and Canada. The last 2, Britain and Australia got away.
Right.
But we switched up the order. We put Flora 3rd. Normally, always the best girl goes first,
Right.
and that's what the other teams did. We knew we needed a 10 to 15 second head start for me in the end, and we looked at my bike run splits, and they actually were the same or 1 or 2 seconds faster than that bronze medal. So it's not likely that we'd be up in there, but it's not inconceivable that if all of us had good races, because it's 4 people, and one of the other countries, like or 1 or 2, had a bad leg or a bad day, and that's sort of what gets everyone motivated out of the 4 of us. The 2 juniors know they're up and coming. Flora is obviously the defending champion, the individual for comm games, and now the Olympic champ. But yeah, I mean, I think Flora even said she enjoyed Calm Games having a team around
Sure.
her. I'm sure it was nice in the Olympics to only worry about herself, but I think she enjoys it. But yeah, that's the reason I'm still going is for Bermuda and for the team relay, and I think it's end of July or early August.
Hey, have fun out there on Friday.
Thank you. Cheers.
Always a pleasure. Tyler Butterfield has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob. We are at Clash Endurance Miami. Hold on. We will be right back.